What's up, guys? Happy Red Friday. It is Farzin Vasugian here with you for another installment of the Red Friday live chat. Hope your Friday's all going well. Hope you're all staying warm as well. Had another drop of snow, second week in a row. This one's not as bad as the one from last week, but otherwise, we're live. We're here. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. This is exclusively on Facebook and YouTube, so this is not going to be available on the podcast. The only way you can check this out is if you're watching live or watching on the archive version only on Facebook and YouTube. Appreciate you guys joining me. Going to be talking some Chiefs football with you guys while watching the Ohio State and Texas game here on the side. Ohio State just got on the scoreboard, our first score of the game. Winner moves on. Winner moves on to the big game. All right, I see you guys coming in here, so let's go ahead and chat it up here. A couple things I wanted to address before I get to your guys' questions and comments here. So if you guys are just coming in, go ahead and get those questions in the comments. I'll get to those later on. I do want to talk about the All-Pro team that came out. That has a lot of reactions, and that has also created a big... let's just say a lot of people are not happy about that in Buffalo. Yeah, definitely not happy about that in Buffalo. So we'll talk about that, just some of my thoughts on there and how that's impacted the MVP odds and what people really think of who the MVP will be this year. We'll touch on that. And then we have the wild card games this weekend. So we'll discuss that as well and whatever else comes up. So if you guys have any questions, comments, like I said, put them below. I'll get to all of your comments as we go on tonight here on the Red Friday live chat. Appreciate you guys joining me. Teresa, what's going on? John, I see you. See all of you guys commenting, chatting, all that good stuff. So get your questions in. Let's get things started here and let's talk about the All-Pro team because that is what has drawn a lot of reactions today when it came to the NFL news. There you have it right there. That is your All-Pro team, folks. Your first team All-Pro selections here. That right there, right over here. Lamar Jackson, the quarterback. That is getting the most amount of attention right now here. Let me just say this. I think if you are a voter, and by the way, there are 50 of these voters, and these are the same people who vote for Coach of the Year. They vote for Comeback Player of the Year, Rookie, Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive and Defensive Player of the Year, and also vote for MVP. So this gives you a very, very strong indication as to who's winning MVP. And I'll get to the MVP talk in a moment here. As far as the Chiefs go here, Joe Thuney and Creed Humphrey, they both made first team All-Pro on the offensive side of the football. And as far as the defense goes, Chris Jones made it on the defensive side for the Chiefs. This is actually how the NFLPA All-Pro team looked. They had Thuney and Humphrey on the offense, and they had Chris Jones on defense. Excuse me. I don't think the NFLPA did a second team All-Pro. Just one All-Pro team. Meanwhile, the AP, they do a first team All-Pro and a second team All-Pro. Trent McDuffie made second team All-Pro. And I mean, listen, there are a lot of good quarterbacks on this list. So I know a lot of Chiefs fans not happy that Derek Stingley made first team over him. Listen, I think those are interchangeable. And Trent McDuffie got some first place votes. So it's not like he was just completely forgotten about in the All-Pro voting here. As far as Chiefs who received votes but did not make it into the either of the All-Pro teams, Travis Kelce got 2 votes. They were not first place votes. Trey Smith, he received 29 total votes, 5 first place votes. If there was a third team All-Pro, he would have made that list, but no such thing exists. Then we go to the defensive side of the football. 2 Chiefs players on defense received votes, but did not get on either team. Nick Bolton got 6 votes. This one was a surprise here. Leo Chenal got 2 votes for All-Pro. I mean, I've said for a while in the offseason, I said I'm really excited for Leo Chanel filling in for Willie Gay, and I think he's going to be able to do some things, which he has been able to do both on offense and on special teams. I did not think he was playing at an all-pro level, but there were two people out there who thought he was. Nick Bolton, I wouldn't say Nick Bolton has played at an all-pro level per se. I would say he's certainly one of the better linebackers in the NFL, and he's getting that recognition. Leo Chenal to get 2 all-pro votes, that's okay. I'm curious to know who those two are. Are those two guys, or do those two guys watch a lot of Chiefs games? Do they cover the Chiefs closely or within the AFC West? I'd be very curious to know who those are. Sometimes you don't get to know who voted for who, but that was a little bit of a surprise to me that Leo Chenal received some votes for the All-Pro team. As far as Trent McDuffie goes, he received 61 votes. Like I said earlier, that got him on the second team. He did receive 15 first-place votes. So it's not like, the voters just completely disregarded him. There was a lot of people out there that felt like he is indeed one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL, which he is. Let's be honest about that. I think as a fan, I care more about the All-Pro team than the Pro Bowl. Because the Pro Bowl voting, it's a popularity contest. You guys already know that by now. You guys don't need me to inform you of that. But the players, I think the players care more about the Pro Bowl than they do the All-Pro. Because when it comes to incentive bonuses and in players' contracts, a lot of them get more money if they make a Pro Bowl or if they make multiple Pro Bowls over their time and the duration of that contract with a team. This was brought up a couple of weeks or a week or two ago with Trent McDuffie. He's definitely missing out on some money because he has not been making the Pro Bowl. At the end of the day, listen, he's still going to make what, $12 million on that 50-year option? Okay, that's not the worst thing in the world if you're Trent McDuffie. $5 million, I think that's the difference. If he had made 2 Pro Bowls, that's a lot of money. But I think if you're smart with that money, which I think Trent McDuffie is, you are going to be just fine with $12 million, indeed. And listen, as a fan, I think it's silly that he's not making the Pro Bowl, but we all know how those things are judged. A lot of it is based on stats, and Trent McDuffie doesn't have the stats. Or at least the common key stats. Yeah, sure, he locks down a lot of receivers and all that, but let's not pretend like those are stats that everyone knows about or they're available on NFL.com, ESPN. And I've always been surprised with websites like ESPN, NFL, Fox Sports, and CBS Sports, some of these websites that have stats out there, but they don't have stats for cover guys. They don't have stats for offensive linemen and pressures allowed, sacks allowed. PFF has those stats, but why is it just them? Surely Fox Sports, ESPN, all these other websites I've mentioned, they have the resources to be able to track those things and be able to post them on their websites. It's a surprise to me that we're in the year 2025 and those websites still don't have it. You have to go through the premium route like PFF to attain those types of things, which I've gone over this before, so I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole again. Now, let's go back to the MVP voting here because Lamar Jackson, he made first team All-Pro. I don't have the votes in front of me for the quarterback. Lamar did get a majority of the votes, and then there's a big gap between him and Josh Allen. Josh Allen made second team, and the only other quarterback that received All-Pro votes was Joe Burrow, which certainly makes sense. I think those are the only 3 quarterbacks that should be considered. Burrow just happened to be the odd man out, and he only had 3 votes, I believe, if I recall correctly. As soon as the All-Pro team list came out, I can certainly say this for DraftKings, and I believe all of the other sports betting sites did this as well. The odds shut down. They took away MVP betting as soon as the All-Pro team came out, because I looked at DraftKings as the moment I saw the NFL post this, I quickly went to DraftKings. I said, wait, what is Josh Allen's odds to win MVP? Because if Lamar Jackson made first team All-Pro and not Josh, what are the odds? Like, if someone's really smart, they could put a lot of money on Lamar Jackson, and I did not. I already put money on Lamar Jackson to win MVP because I had a feeling he would get it. Because the NFLPA All-Pro team had Lamar Jackson on their first team, as did the AP writers, the 50 voters who vote for the Associated Press. So right now, and by the way, even those who don't vote for this, a lot of people in the media have been making a case for Lamar Jackson to win the MVP award. Maybe this was not as close as I thought it was going to be. I mean, I don't know where the drop-off moment happened for Josh Allen to where Lamar Jackson became the big-time leader for MVP, but the media saw him as the front runner, and they chose him over Josh Allen. Buffalo Bills fans are not happy about this at all. I've seen Buffalo Bills fans and Baltimore Ravens fans go at it in the past 3 to 4 weeks over who the better quarterback is and who should win MVP. Meanwhile, there are very few people like me saying Saquon Barkley should be the MVP, but this is a quarterback award. We all know that. It's very possible that Saquon Barkley is going to win Offensive Player of the Year. That will definitely not sit well with Bills fans. For Josh Allen to not be the winner of the MVP award and the Offensive Player of the Award, to not receive either of those, yeah, that fan base is not going to be happy about that at all. So that's just the way things pan out with the All-Pro voting. I'm kind of surprised the All-Pro voting gets revealed right before the playoffs, because this does kind of give away who the MVP is. And again, keep in mind, I had someone on Twitter try to educate me as to who the voters are. First of all, it's the same people who vote for AP, the MVP voting, Coach of the Year voting, AP All-Pro voting. All of that is by the same 50 voters from the Associated Press. The fact that people try to educate me on this is hilarious to me because I know 2 of the voters. I personally know 2 of the voters who do this. So, again, everyone has their narrative as to what happens, doesn't happen. It's always funny to me. But this is a very strong indication that Lamar Jackson's winning the MVP. Look, I'll say this right now. If you're a voter and you want to make a case for Lamar Jackson, I don't think you're wrong. If you want to make a case for Josh Allen, nothing wrong with that. If you want to make a case for Saquon Barkley, I'd say that's the one I would agree with the most. But again, nothing wrong with that. I think all 3 guys have had remarkable seasons. So you can't, take credit away from any of these guys. But at the end of the day, there's only one winner. This doesn't happen every single season, but go through every single season in NFL history. And a majority of the time, you will see that whoever finished in second place, they had a great season. They just weren't as good as the person who won first place. It's kind of like the Super Bowl every year, okay? Whoever wins the Super Bowl, I mean, they're the Super Bowl champions, but there are always, a couple other teams that were just as worthy as making it. They just didn't do enough to win it in the end. I don't think this should be Eagles fans and Bills fans, especially Bills fans, because they're the ones upset about this the most. I think Eagles fans kind of saw this coming. I don't think they should get all worked up about it because Allen's not the MVP. I mean, he still had a remarkable season. You can only vote for one guy to get the first team honors here. You don't get multiple votes for these things. When it comes to the MVP voting, the system has changed recently to where you vote for 5 guys. You give 10 points to the guy who you think should be the MVP. You give 5 points to who you think should be second. Third place gets 3 points. Fourth place gets 2, and fifth place gets 1 point. That's been the new voting system for the MVP. But yeah, I mean, that's just these 50 voters, they saw it go this way. And that's just the way it works. It's kind of like in the UFC and boxing. If you do not agree with the judges, and I don't follow boxing much or hardly ever, but I know in the UFC there's been a lot of controversial decisions from judges. And I will say this, I think ultimately, because sometimes you get UFC fighters who get very upset about the judging, Doesn't matter what anybody has to say. It's just those 3 judges who judge that fight right there. If it goes to a decision, those 3 guys were hired for a reason. If you don't like the way judges score fights, well, then do what you need to do to finish the fight. Submit your opponent or knock him out, and don't put it in the hands of the judges, as Dana White has said many times. It's kind of like in the NFL. Don't put the game in the hands of the referees if you don't want it to come down to a controversial call. As if anyone's ever complained about the referees in the NFL. All right. A couple announcements when it comes to the coaching searches out there in the NFL. So Spags just got done interviewing with the New York Jets. Hopefully his Madden rating is pretty good, because that is evidently how the Jets judge things. As far as Matt Nagy goes, I believe he completed an interview with the Jets also. Let me just double check on that. I actually had it up in front of me and I accidentally exited out. So yes, the Jets have completed an interview with Matt Nagy. That was yesterday, or 2 days ago rather, excuse me. And then today, Spags has completed an interview with the Jets. The Jets have interviewed both Kansas City coordinators. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens on that front. Listen, I'm not going to say anything different. I've been saying this earlier in the week. When you win a lot of games like the Chiefs do, your coordinators are going to be guys that everyone's going to be targeting. And eventually, Spags has now become a guy that teams want, because of the job he's done on defense this year and last year. Matt Nagy, a lot of people have their opinions on Matt Nagy here in Kansas City. People feel like he doesn't deserve the credit. Here's the magical thing in good old Chiefs Kingdom. Listen, I love you guys, I really do, but sometimes there is an inconsistent set of criticism that's out there when it comes to the play calling. When everything is working, who gets all the credit? Andy Reid gets the credit. Patrick Mahomes gets the credit. Travis Kelce, and whoever else that's on the field that makes a nice play. Those guys get all the credit. Number one is Andy Reid. But when things are not working on offense, I just look at Twitter and everybody's blaming the offensive coordinator, whether it's Eric Bieniemy or Matt Nagy. Obviously, Eric Bieniemy from 2018 to 2022, and Matt Nagy since then has been the OC. Thankfully, teams do not judge coordinators based on fans' reactions on Twitter. Now, with the Jets, you can't ever count. I mean, listen, I'm still not over the fact that the Jets, their owner, I guess, judged someone's Madden rating and decided not to complete a trade. So, there you have it. That's the Jets for you. All right, I see your guys' comments. I'm going to get to those in a moment here. For those of you coming in late, you guys got any comments, questions, whatever is on your mind, comment below. I will get to those shortly and get to all of your guys' thoughts. I went over my picks earlier in the week, but I'll do it one more time. I'll do it pretty quickly since you guys probably already know my picks for the game. The LA Chargers, that is, at the Houston Texans. I think this is going to be the only AFC playoff game where the road team wins. So I'm going to go with the Chargers on this one. The Steelers at the Ravens. I'd like to sit here and say this is going to be a nice, fun divisional matchup. I know they had a very low-scoring game earlier in the year where Pittsburgh pulled off a nice little upset here, essentially shutting down Lamar Jackson. But I don't know if it's going to happen that way. Pittsburgh is they are coming into the playoffs very lethargic. They've lost 4 straight games. They were 4-0 against playoff teams at one point, and now they're 4-3 against playoff teams. I just don't know if Pittsburgh has any gas left in that tank. This is going to be a blowout, I think. I know on DraftKings, I believe it's 9.5. That's what it is here on ESPN's betting line, and I would pick Baltimore to cover that and win by a nice margin there. Sunday, the first Sunday game, Denver at Buffalo. I'm picking Buffalo, but that betting line right there, that spread is not very, that is too generous for Buffalo. I really do think so. I think the only way Buffalo covers the spread is if they have the ball with a few minutes left and they score a touchdown in a one-score game. This is going to be a very close game, though. This is going to be very close. I think Denver's defense is going to do a lot of things to kind of rattle Buffalo. And if Buffalo can get past Denver, I think that'll be a nice little confidence boost because this is going to be the toughest defensive front you will face all year. Pittsburgh's very good, but I don't think they're getting out of the first round. Same thing with Houston. You can say a lot of nice things about Houston's defensive front, but I don't think they're getting out of the first round either. So I think this is, if you're Buffalo, you just got to beat Denver. And at that point, I mean, yeah, Kansas City's defense, a lot of good things about that defense. I think Baltimore's defense is better than what people thought it was going to be this year. But you don't have a defensive unit that has multiple solid pass rushers. And if you can get past Denver, you probably will feel in a way that you can get past anybody if you're Buffalo. I think it just comes down to the inexperience on the offensive side of the football. Obviously, they've got their quarterback, Bo Nix, who's a rookie. Marvin Mims, another young guy who's been playing very well lately. It's going to come down to those guys and how they do. And Marvin Mims, by the way, was an all-pro on the special teams group, first team. So maybe special teams could be a difference maker in this one. We don't know. I am picking Buffalo to win, but I would bet on Denver to cover the spread. Packers at Eagles. I have the Eagles winning this one. I think Saquon Barkley is just going to be too much for the Packers. I think the Packers have had a great season. They're in the toughest division in the NFL. 2 14-win teams. One is a 15-win team. The other one's a 14-win team in the same division. But I think Green Bay, that's going to come to an end this week. I have Washington pulling an upset on the road. I think Tampa Bay's had a really good season. I like Baker Mayfield. I've never really understood some of the criticism for Baker, especially coming into the NFL. But I do, and I like the offensive pass attack that Tampa Bay has. But I just like the way Washington's been playing football. I know Jaden Daniels gets a lot of the attention there, but Terry McLaurin, he's been playing really well too. And they're just not afraid. I mean, listen, I don't want to sit here and say teams like Denver and Washington, just because they have rookie quarterbacks, that they're content with making the playoffs. Of course not. All 14 of these teams have a chance. So they all have the same goal, and that's to win the Super Bowl. But if you're a team like Denver or Washington and you lose, are you going to be upset? Yes, of course. But there, you can lose this game and have a lot of optimism moving forward. Let's keep one thing in mind: a rookie quarterback's never won a Super Bowl before. A team with a starting rookie quarterback, I should say. But boy, Washington. I mean, they're a team that, you know, they had their nice turnaround this year from last year. They're not coming in afraid. I think they're going to pull out all the stops and maybe even show more of their playbook than you know, some teams would for their first playoff game. I just see Washington coming in here hot and wanting to pull off this upset here, and make whatever noise they can the rest of the playoffs. Minnesota at LA. This one's going to take place at State Farm Stadium. And yes, I have seen a lot of the comments about State Farm and the whole situation there. But I do have the Vikings winning this one. I think the Vikings defense, a lot of people talk about Justin Jefferson, Addison, and Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's coming off a really terrible game, just completely inaccurate from start to finish. A couple of the drops certainly didn't help, but if he was accurate on some of those red zone throws, certainly would have made a difference in that game, I think. But Minnesota's defense, man, they are scary good. They finished in first place, tying with the Steelers for most takeaways in the NFL. So that Minnesota team, and listen, I like the Rams offense a lot. Who they have at wide receiver with Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, DeMarcus Robinson, a lot of good guys for Matthew Stafford to throw to. But I am concerned about that LA defense. And I know, you know, they kind of had an unexpected departure with Aaron Darnold. Aaron Donald, excuse me. I'm getting Sam Darnold and Aaron Donald mixed up. Aaron Donald, but they've had some up and down moments this year. The Rams defense, that is. So the two big questions is, what will the Rams defense look like, and what will the Vikings offense look like? I'm picking the Vikings in this one. So those are my 6 picks. All right, enough of me talking. I am going to go to you guys now and read your comments. DJ Humphries didn't do so hot. Yeah, so I put out a post about Joe Thuney and how I think he should be the left tackle, not just for the playoffs, but also in 2025. And I think in the offseason, you can do what you need to maybe have him adjust with his weight in his frame. I know arm length is still a concern for him, but I mean, the Chiefs went up against some good defenses last month, and the offense played its best against the Texans, and then less than a week later against the Steelers. I mean, Joe Thuney did a really good job. It kind of struggled against Myles Garrett, but in general, the Chiefs, their offensive line going through that shift with Mike Caliendo being the left guard, they've gone through some good defenses. They came out alive in all of that. And listen, people are pushing back against Mike Caliendo. Some people bring up his Pro Football Focus grade. First of all, Pro Football Focus grades are subjective. They are absolutely subjective. I remember Aaron Rodgers once threw 5 touchdowns against the Chiefs. He got a 2.2 PFF grade, all because he threw an interception on a free play. And then there was another big reason why they gave him a really harsh grade. I mean, come on. And then in week 1 of 2022, Patrick Mahomes threw for 5 touchdown passes, yet he was the 7th highest graded quarterback that week. So I'm not, and listen, I think the grades are a nice reference. You still have to pay attention to the game. Listen, Mike Caliendo, that guy's an undrafted player who never started a game before the 3 games in 11 days. Was he an all-pro in those 3 games? No, absolutely not. But he certainly exceeded my expectations. I mean, if you're expecting that guy to look like Will Shields, I mean, I'm sorry. You're just putting high expectations for a guy who's never played or never started a regular season game. So I think Mike Caliendo did just fine at left guard for the Chiefs in those 3 games he was a part of, the 3 games in 11 days. And obviously he played a little bit in the playoff, or not the playoff game, but the game against the Broncos, only for 1 series. I got a lot of pushback on this one. A lot of people said, no, you have to put DJ Humphries at left tackle and put Joe Thuney back to left guard because the Chiefs' run game has not been good since the switch. Man, I'm just saying right now, the Chiefs' run game has not. Kareem Hunt has certainly provided a boost, and Pacheco coming back certainly has been nice. But the Chiefs' running game has not really been that dominant all year, regardless who the left guard is. Again, Kareem Hunt's done some good things this year. Don't get me wrong. He just hasn't put up massive numbers this year. He's doing just enough to help the Chiefs, especially in short yardage situations. And by the way, as important I think Kareem Hunt and Pacheco are, and I hope they're utilized more in the passing game, which kind of leads me to my next point. If you're bringing up the run game, Kansas City's bread and butter is the passing game. 100% has to be, I mean, the concern has to be the passing department, not the rushing game. And if you have DJ Humphries at left tackle, I'm concerned for Patrick Mahomes at that point. Listen, some people are saying there's the option to let DJ Humphries start off a playoff game next week at left tackle and let Joe Thuney be the left guard and see how things go. Okay, but this is not really the time to experiment. This is the playoffs here. DJ, and I understand DJ Humphries was on the shelf for all of 2024 up until the Chiefs signed him in November. And I had a lot of expectations from him. He came in with a lot of hype. But unfortunately, we've gotten the complete opposite with DJ Humphries. I'm just, maybe if he chooses to stay in Kansas City and has a full offseason, maybe things will be a little different. I don't know. Kansas City just hasn't gotten the left tackle position right. And it's not for a lack of effort. Ever since Eric Fisher got injured, you go through Orlando Brown. He was a failure. You bring in Donovan Smith, a guy who's had some success in the past. He did not do very well. Then you drafted Wanya Morris the same year you got Donovan Smith. He has not been very good. You also draft Kingsley Suamataia. He has struggled immensely at left tackle. So Joe Thuney, you shifted him from guard to tackle, and he's been your best left tackle the past 3 years. So I think that's the guy you go with. Keep in mind, if Patrick Mahomes does not have a viable left tackle, the Chiefs are not going very far. And I know what you guys are going to say, but Farzine, the Chiefs did not have a good left tackle nor a good right tackle each of the last 2 years. And by the way, they've all been 4 different guys. It was Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley 2 years ago. And last year, it was Juwan Taylor and Donovan Smith. Yeah, you're right. And the Chiefs still found a way to win the Super Bowl with 4 different bad offensive tackles. Are you guys really banking on that to be the case the third time around? I don't know, man. I would prefer we don't experiment that. I would rather here's the thing. If it's not broken, don't fix it. The Chiefs went up against 2 good defenses. And Joe Thuney and Mike Caliendo, I think they did well. Caliendo allowed a couple of pressures in that Steelers game. Okay. All right. I mean, again, this guy was an undrafted player a couple of years ago and never started a game. I think, you got to have a little bit of patience with that guy. But in general, I think he's done a good job filling in Joe Thuney's position. I mean, let's give the guy a little bit of credit here. Again, if your expectation is that he's going to be Will Shields, good luck. That's really all I can say. MVP should be Saquon. I don't disagree. I that's my vote if I had a vote. But it's a quarterback-driven league, and everyone just thinks about quarterbacks all the time. I don't get it. I really, really don't. The guy rushed for 2,000 yards in 16 games. He didn't play last week. How do you just forget about that? I don't know. That's just me. I'm very curious to see what the results are for the MVP voting. I mean, I hope he gets at least 10 votes, but I doubt it. Yes, this would be his third indeed, and I believe he had one last year, so this would be 2 years in a row. Bills fans don't get a vote. Could you imagine if they allowed fans to vote for All Pro and Pro Bowl, All Pro and MVP? Yeah, that would not be that wouldn't be good. I heard Saquon should split it with a QB. You heard? I mean, I think you might say he should. I don't think. The way you worded that was a little weird, but that's not going to happen. Bills fans don't like 0-3 either. I don't know what that means. I assume you're referring to Josh Allen's record against the Chiefs in the playoffs. And this is true, Layla. If they met in the playoffs, whoever outduels each other should win it. Well, the voting's already in. I'll say this right now. If Buffalo and Baltimore meet in the playoffs, and I think they will, that might be the best game for the entire postseason. I can see that game coming down to the final play. That would be a lot of fun to watch. I know the last time Baltimore just beat the living hell out of the Bills, I don't think it happens exactly like that the second time around. I think it'll be much closer. But my God, I mean, if Baltimore does blow out Buffalo again, Josh Allen will be 0-5 against Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson combined in his career in the playoffs. I mean, listen, if you think Josh Allen's the best, then he's got to be able to start winning these big playoff games. And by the way, nobody from Buffalo made the first team, All-Pro first team. And Buffalo social media team, they definitely made a note of that. Colin Cowherd said it best a while ago. He said that Mahomes on occasion has to put on a cape. Josh Allen has to put on a cape and has to be the hero for all 4 quarters. James Cook didn't make the Pro Bowl. Now, again, Pro Bowl voting is a little sus, as the kids like to say. But I kind of like to think there's a little bit of a reason for that. I think my point is people view the Buffalo Bills a certain way to where Josh Allen is that team. You don't have Josh Allen, you don't have a football team. I know a lot of people are saying that if Joe Burrow wasn't on the Bengals and the Bengals would be bad. I don't necessarily agree with that. Didn't we see Jake Browning help them finish 9-8 in a very tough division? I mean, they still have a good football team, even without Joe Burrow. Might not be as good. I mean, obviously, their defense has a lot of work to do, but you get the idea. I don't know, John. I don't agree with this. Look, what's the point of being a fanatic? I mean, Super Bowls are nice. Don't get me wrong. If your favorite team is winning Super Bowls, then yeah, that's certainly the argument. But as a fanatic, when you're, especially in the social media era today, where you have the ability to interact with other fans, I mean, don't you use MVP, Super Bowl wins, and all these other awards as a metric as to who's better? I mean, we see that a lot with the basketball debate as to who the GOAT is, and people want to bring up championships, MVPs, stats, all of those things. But I don't know. Matt Nagy was a head coach before, right? Yes, he was on a Chicago team that does not do any favors for their head coach and the rest of that team. Yeah, I would not mind seeing Eric Bieniemy. I would actually not mind seeing Doug Peterson back either. Another name, I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Kafka came back. I'm actually surprised he's getting head coaching interest. That was a big surprise to me. I mean, I guess because he's from the Andy Reid tree, people are like, oh, you used to work for Andy Reid? Yeah, come on in. We'll talk to you. We're not going to judge your tenure with the Giants. I mean, listen, the guys before Mike Kafka couldn't figure out Daniel Jones, so why would he? Like, he just isn't good for a reason. Yeah, they certainly are. How awesome was the Orange Bowl? Was great seeing Australian punters. I didn't get to see much of the game, but I watched the fourth quarter. Dude, Penn State, it looked like they didn't provide they didn't put enough replays to show it, but it seemed like from the different angles they showed, which wasn't very many, it seemed like PSU was very close to blocking that. I thought it was going to get blocked, but no, Notre Dame won. So we're about to find out who wins. It was nice to see a close college football playoff game. Haven't had many of those so far. Why did Trent McDuffie get second team than the first team All-Pro with the season he's had? Scott, the only thing I can really answer, by the way, that is a baller profile picture. You see mine right there. But yeah, yours is baller, dude. I love Friday the 13th. By the way, that is a very small picture on my end. So that I hope I'm right that it is a Jason Voorhees mask. But anyway, to answer your question, it comes down to stats, I think. I think a lot of times when you see, I guarantee you, the 50 voters, do they truly know who the two best left tackles, left guards, centers, right guards, and right tackles are? I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and claim to know that I have it because I don't. I would have to do some research to figure all of that out. Now, what kind of research do you do for offensive linemen? Because there's not enough of that. Pro Football Focus, I guess, is one place, but I don't think they have all of the answers. My point here is some positions don't have stats to go along with it. Trent McDuffie has been playing great coverage his entire career, but doesn't have the stats to really show for it. So that's the only answer I can give you, Scott, as to why he was a second team and not a first team All-Pro. If the Steelers start slow, I would switch to Justin Fields. I've thought about that, Anthony. I mean, your entire offense would have to change. Because Russell Wilson, and he's done a lot of great stuff in his career. But right now, I mean, the Steelers are on this massive decline coming into the playoffs. They don't look like a playoff team right now. They got enough to win to get to this point, but the month of December and I guess the first week of January was one for them to forget. Because I'm just looking at the Steelers right now. Fields has done some good things for them, but you have to switch so much of your offense up because the style of play from those two quarterbacks are not the same. I mean, you've had the whole week to prepare and figure out what you want to do. Hopefully, they have that backup plan ready and have the offense ready for that switch. Wilson sucks. Pickens can't catch. Only hope for Steelers is Frymer. Yeah, he's been the only consistent guy on that offense lately. Him and Najee Harris, but an above average running back and a solid tight end, that's not going to save you. No. Yeah, Lisa, you're right. Counting on Denver to do some heavy hitting, beat them up, like tenderize them. Look, the Buffalo Bills are going to come out of that with a lot of scars and a lot of bruises. That's going to be a very tough game. I just think Denver, that defense is so good that they can. I think they can definitely tire out a team to where it'll impact them the following week. I mean, look at the Chiefs. They had a very close game against the Broncos earlier this year, and they lost the following week to the Bills. Is there a correlation there? I don't know. I suppose we'll find out this weekend and next weekend if things go the way I expect them to go, because I did pick the Broncos to lose to the Bills, but I do have them making it close, and I have the Ravens beating the Bills. I guess we'll find out. What was the deal about Vegas dropping the MVP? So that's a good question, Dave. Here's why. Because if you look at the All-Pro team, and by the way, let me pull up what were the odds, because I took a screenshot of that before they took it down, because I knew it was going to happen. Hold up. There it is. Right there. Josh Allen was a minus 450. Lamar was plus 320. So I don't know how long this was left up, because as soon as the All-Pro list came out, and I got it within the first minute, I quickly went to DraftKings. I said, "Ooh, are the odds still up?" That was my first question, because I saw Lamar Jackson over Josh Allen. I'm like, whoa, that's a surprise to me. So I went over to DraftKings and I saw this, because when the voting was completed on Monday, Josh Allen's odds went up and Lamar Jackson's went down. So I'm looking at the odds and I'm like, wait a minute. If somebody wants to, they could put the house on Lamar Jackson. So again, I don't know exactly how many minutes the odds were up on DraftKings website, and I can't speak for other websites, but I can tell you it was not very long on DraftKings. And all of the other websites, they pretty much did the same thing. So if you saw the All-Pro voting, and if you took advantage for the 2 minutes or however long it was that the odds were still up, you had a chance to basically put a lot of money on Lamar Jackson, because he was at a plus 320 on DraftKings. I don't know what it was for other websites. Each website differs a little bit, but plus 320, I mean, you put $100, that's $320 in your pocket. So yeah, you could put a lot of money on that. What are they going to do with Juwan Taylor and all the flags he gets? Can't have that in the playoffs. You're right, John. He nullified a touchdown from Rashee Rice last year in the Dolphins game. Now, that game was not even close, but it could come down to that. That does make me nervous for sure. So I'm curious to see how the Chiefs handle that. Wanya Morris has played some right tackle. Andy Reid did say today that Juwan Taylor practiced because he's been dealing with an injury. Chris Jones, Isaiah Pacheco also practiced as well. There was another Chief who practiced. I can't remember who it was. But take a moment to check that out. Shamari Connor, because he got hurt towards the end of that Broncos game on Sunday. So yeah, that's my thing, John. You can't really, this is not the time to experiment. This is not the time to test things. That is over. Every single play matters. Every single drive matters. And I love the way the Chiefs offense has been playing lately. And I'm, of course, not including the Broncos game. So hopefully the Chiefs offense keeps that rhythm going into the playoffs. Henry can be slowed down. The Chiefs did it when he played with the Titans. Yes, you're right, Rochelle. He did. He was kind of non-existent in that AFC Championship game, and that was when the Titans got off to a 10-0 start. And then this year, when the Ravens visited the Chiefs for week 1 to open up the NFL season, Henry was shut down in that game. By the way, I got a question for you guys. Little pop quiz here. And yes, I am watching the game. I have it on the site here. I got a question for all of you guys. Comment below if you know the answer. How many players have rushed for 100 yards on the Chiefs? If you know how many people have done that, go ahead and put in the name. Here's a hint. It's not very many. Let me know how many players have rushed for 100 yards on the Chiefs this year. And if you know who those players are, put them below. I'd love to know if you guys have that answer. In fact, I mentioned that on a podcast earlier this year. So if you guys have been paying attention, you certainly know the answer. Keep the O-line how it is. Address the offseason, the left tackle via the draft. Yeah, certainly going to be looked at a lot this year. Some of the left tackle is game plan on offense. Utilize Worthy on shorter routes instead. I don't disagree. I don't like all the deep passing plays if you don't have time. Yeah, that might be what you have to do. And Worthy has been very good at doing that. Jeff. Anthony says 1. Bob says 3. Robert says 2. I'm telling you right now, Anthony does have the correct number of players, but it's not from the Raiders. It is not from the Raiders. In fact, if you guys noticed, I asked you guys how many players. I didn't say how many running backs have rushed for 100 yards on the Chiefs this year. How many players? Because not one single running back rushed for 100 yards on the Chiefs this year. There's only one player that's ran for 100 yards on Kansas City's defense, and that one player is Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is the only player to rush for 100 yards on the Chiefs. Yes, that is correct. 100%. And I double-checked this today. Lamar's the only 100-yard rusher on the Chiefs. And that was the very first game of the NFL season. Game 1 of 272. So, yeah. That's why I would love to see a Chiefs and Eagles Super Bowl. I'd love to see how the Chiefs would do against Saquon Barkley. I mean, they shut down Derrick Henry. And not just Derrick Henry. They've gone up against a lot of good running backs. Alvin Kamara, Dobbins, whoever has been like in the top 5 in rushing yards against the Panthers also, their running back. The Chiefs have stepped up to the game and they have shut down every running back this year. I don't think there's maybe 2 players, running backs specifically, that have rushed for more than 60 or 70 yards on the Chiefs defense. If you guys saw my list of every playoff team's strengths and weaknesses, I mentioned the Chiefs' biggest strength is their run defense. And I don't think you can really make a case for any other unit on the Chiefs. That is awesome. And he did hook up one of the kids with Super Bowl tickets. So that's awesome. That is really cool. It felt like the Raiders running back did that the second game. I think he had like 67 yards or something, somewhere around there. Actually, let me look that up real quickly. Chiefs, Raiders, Black Friday, ESPN. Because the Raiders running back did statistically play well in that game, but was not enough. Was not enough. I am in the wrong section here. Let me pull up week 13. Yeah, Sincere McCormick, he ran for 64 yards. I said 67. I don't know why I remember it that way, but yeah, there were not a lot of running backs that had even ran for more than 60 or 70 on the Chiefs. It's a very, very small group of players against the Panthers. I can't remember the name of the player on the Panthers. Chuba Hubbard, that's who it was. Chuba Hubbard ran for 58. So yeah, that Raiders running back you're talking about there, Anthony. 64 yards. That might be one of the most. I think the Steelers. Hold up. Let me see something here with the Chiefs. Because what was it? Who was that against? I can't recall. The Steelers and the Texans. Because I know Bo Nix was a leading rusher against the Chiefs in that blowout win they got. Yeah, Najee Harris ran for 74 yards. That is the most by a running back. And then Jaylen Warren, he also ran for 71. But keep in mind, this was a blowout. A lot of that is padded stats there. So in general, I mean, the Chiefs, they have not been letting any running back run on them this year. Yeah, you're thinking combined. Yeah, for sure. Defense is going to win this championship. Yeah, I certainly think so. And there are going to be a lot of people out there saying that the Mahomes was carried by the defense. Even though, like, Mahomes, I mean, he's been doing a lot of things. You know what's funny to me is everyone outside of Kansas City, that is, keeps saying that Mahomes is getting carried. But when they bench Mahomes and the rest of the offense, everyone's like, oh, really? You have to bench all those guys? It's like, wait a minute. I thought those players were overrated anyway. It's funny to me, like, you're starting to see a lot of people kind of talk about the Chiefs. It's like, wait a minute, the backups were bad. Now you want the starters just so Denver can be kept out. So I don't know. Melody, what's going on? I hope that Hicks gets more time. We need more time. Yeah. The tight end, that was an issue earlier in the year. I think they figured that out. And by the way, Anthony, I will bet you that Jaden Hicks will play a lot for sure. He was playing a lot during those 3 games in 11 days. I think part of that is try to keep the defense fresh and all of that. But boy, he took advantage of his playing time. He certainly did. He got 128 snaps during those 3 games. The first 13 games of the year, he added 128 snaps. So he definitely took advantage of all the playing time he got this year, specifically in those last 3 games. And I'm not including the Broncos game, of course, but I think he can be a cornerstone player for this team in the future, long-term future, that is. In the playoffs, I do think this is someone that's going to be much more involved with the Chiefs defense in the playoffs, for sure. I'd love to see our run defense against Saquon Barkley or Jahmyr Gibbs. That's a great test. Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs got some love on the All-Pro voting. So he's that's not a player a lot of people talk about with the Lions. Or maybe I just have it wrong. Because I feel like everyone talks about Jared Goff and then Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then the defense, even though the defense has been kind of banged up this year. But even when banged up, people are talking about the defense and all the absences they have there. I just don't feel like Jahmyr Gibbs gets as much love. So I know they got the nickname Sonic and Hedgehog, but they got some he got some votes. Why are people saying we've had a 15-3 season? It was 14. I don't know. I have not seen that. But yeah, you're right. It is 15-2. Let's hope Patty stays healthy because we don't have a backup. That's very true. And listen, here's the thing with Carson Wentz. He played with a bunch of other backups as well. I mean, do you think Carson Wentz could do some things? I mean, wasn't he playing with some of the ones in the preseason? And he threw that touchdown to Xavier Worthy. Now, I'm not saying let's use that as reference that, the Chiefs will be A-okay if Carson Wentz comes in. But, I think we got to understand he was playing with a bunch of backups on the field. I don't know any quarterback that would have played differently playing with all of those second and third stringers. The Chiefs have gotten criticized for everything this year: wins, losses, slides, not sliding, refs, Taylor Swift points. Oh yeah, it's always. You know what's funny is the Lions were kind of blamed for some similar things. I mean, obviously not Taylor Swift. I suppose you could say Eminem, but I don't think Eminem's dating anyone on the Lions. But somebody commented on my page, a Lions fan, and said, "Oh, now I understand why you Chiefs fans laugh at all the referee complaints." Yeah, it's nice to know that some fan bases out there finally get it. I mean, Patriots fans certainly get it. I'm starting to see a lot of people say that the referees help the Lions in their games. So I think Lions fans now get how Chiefs fans react. Like, there's a reason why there's a reason why you guys see me mock all of these. Like, okay, the Ravens game, Isaiah likely stepped out, but it's like, okay, he stepped out. Like, what's your point? He wasn't in bounds. You want the referees to say he was in bounds? Like, I don't get it. And then the pass interference against the Bengals. Well, that clearly was pass interference. If you're going to debate someone and say it's not, then you just don't know football. And by the way, much earlier in the game, on a very key, I think it was like 2nd and long, Jamar Chase drags down Trent McDuffie, and Trent McDuffie gets called for pass interference. So, listen, bad calls and missed calls happen. It's happened in favor of the Chiefs, and it's also happened against the Chiefs many times. Against the Bills, the pick play the Bills got away with. Was anyone complaining about the refs outside of Kansas City in that one? Hell no, they were not. So it's always preference. It is always 100% preference. After the game against the Broncos, I hope they don't need to use any of those guys. Yeah, I've seen a few people say that. They're like, oh, the Chiefs are in trouble if any of their backups play. Okay, if 22 Chiefs starters get injured in the playoffs, come talk to me. I will bet you any amount of money that 22 Chiefs starters will not get injured in the playoffs. Like, let's slow it down a bit here, okay? And by the way, where was the outrage a year ago? Do you guys not remember what happened last year when the Chiefs were locked into the number 3 seed? They rested all their starters except for Chris Jones because he had a bonus incentive. The Chiefs only put up 13 points. Now, they won because the Chargers suck, but there were no offensive touchdowns in that game. Now, I get it. 13 points and also being shut out, it's a big deal. Obviously, a lot of eyes were on it because the Bengals and the Dolphins needed the Chiefs to win. And I mean, the Jets didn't matter because they got their asses kicked by, or the Dolphins, they got their asses kicked by the Jets. Here's the thing. I've said this many times and I'll continue to say it as long as Bengals fans continue to cry about it and bitch and moan about it. The Bengals did not miss the playoffs because the Chiefs lost. The Bengals missed the playoffs because they started 0-3 on the season, and they finished 9-8 2 years in a row. This time with a healthy Joe Burrow from start to finish. So, I mean, you tell me the real reason why the Bengals lost. Was it because their rookie cracked under pressure and committed pass interference? Was it because they were not prepared in week 1 for the Patriots of all freaking who was even the quarterback? Jacoby Brissett? They lost to that guy. Joe Burrow lost to that guy head to head, and Burrow had a chance to win the game at the end, and they went 3-0. But yeah, blame it on a week 18 game against the Chiefs. Not against the Chiefs even. If you have to rely on other teams to win for you in the final week of the season, do you really deserve to be in the playoffs anyway? And by the way, Zach Taylor in his press conference after they beat the Steelers, he's like, yeah, nobody wants to see us in the tournament. Okay, then why did you fire 4 assistant coaches 48 hours later? You can't sit here and tell me that your team is feared and that no one wants you in the playoffs. Oh, and by the way, you fire 4 assistant coaches 48 hours later. Like, come on. Listen, you can lie to some people. You can't lie to me. I've got a bullshit detector, guys. It works really well. All right, that'll do it. We are coming up on 60 minutes tonight, so obviously not as eventful of a Red Friday live show. Still had a lot of commentary, still had a lot of questions, so I appreciate all of you guys joining the conversation tonight. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. No Chiefs game, so sit back, relax, watch the other 6 games as they go on this weekend. We will find out Sunday around between 3 to 3:30, we will know who the Chiefs will play in the divisional round. We'll more than likely know the date as well. So we're going to find that out in less than 48 hours. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me for the Red Friday live chat. My name is Farzin Vasugian. I am out. Enjoy the rest of your Friday.